Well, Hillary Clinton this week holding her first press conference in 278 days. And after complaining for months about a lack of access, the media got its chance to ask her some tough questions. So reporters got tough, right?
You suggested that there is a double standard. Do you think that you're treated differently in this race because you're a woman?
Oh, boy, there is another one.
Do you think being held to a different standard? And what does that mean for you going into the debates?
All right, Mercedes. Now, reporters got 7 questions, and 2 of them were softballs like that. Maybe even some of the others were a bit soft as well. Is this more proof the mainstream media is being soft on Hillary?
You know, I don't know if they're soft at her, but they're definitely scared of asking the tough questions. There's so much material, Eric, right now to ask about the Clinton Foundation and the relationship with the State Department, her convoluted responses on the email server and whether it's a heading or classified information or not. And there's so many unanswered questions that I think that these reporters are definitely giving her a very easy pass, while at the same time you're seeing a very different set of standards for Donald Trump, where it is clearly, I think, for many in the mainstream media that they're basically focused on the destruction of Donald Trump. I'm going to take one, for example, Univision's Jorge Ramos, who comes out and basically says, isn't it our job to take on Donald Trump in this election? I mean, that's not what I would call unbiased journalism.
Kristen, can you imagine 278 days and your question is, how are you treated differently than Donald Trump? It just blows me away. You finally have access. Ask the tough questions. Ask about the emails. Ask about the Clinton Foundation. Where's the money? The FBI. Why did you lie? And this is what she gets. I'm blown away.
I think there are 2 things at play here. I think first, it's that you've got a lot of folks that know this is a very guarded candidate. They don't want to miss their shot, and they don't want to be cast out of the inner circle. And so if you're the kind of journalist who's asking questions that are really annoying, do you risk losing that little access that you have? But I think the second thing that's really driving this is that a lot of these reporters, they're process junkies. They love stuff about who's fundraised what's the narrative, what's the message, rather than asking tough policy questions. And so their bias is going to be, let's talk about the narrative and the standard you're being held to. I mean, you're the media. The media is holding the standard, right? But they're asking these process kind of meta questions because that is just the bubble in the world that you live in if you are a political journalist who's out on the campaign trail.
Yeah, and Jess, earlier in the week, there was that Commander-in-Chief forum,
right.
And Matt Lauer is being skewered for pushing back a little bit on
Well, it wasn't
Hillary
a little
Clinton and
bit,
a little bit
but
on Donald Trump.
I think that actually what happened the night before with Matt Lauer did inform what happened with the press conference. First of all, she was pressed about defining her stance about no ground troops, having them in Iraq and Syria, so that was serious. The double standard question one has been a pervasive one throughout this election, so I do actually think that it's important. 7 questions, baby steps. We'll get 10 next time, then 15. I mean, this is really the first week that Hillary Clinton has been in full view for the press. So I think that's important.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but Kristen makes a very good point that these journalists are afraid to ask the tough questions because they might be excluded from the campaign. Where's the journalism there?
I take Kristen's point. I hadn't thought about it that way. It is interesting, and I'm surely think that that's possible. But I do think that after what happened the night before, when Matt Lauer didn't even push back on Donald Trump's big lie, where he says he didn't support the Iraq War in 2002, where we know that he did, and you can check the Esquire article now. It's been updated for new details.
I gotta stop you again,
You don't,
though.
because he spent half, Matt Lauer spent half of his questioning about the emails. So to do it again in the morning.
Donald Trump was a private citizen. He didn't have access to military intelligence.
Because he's a private citizen, it's okay for him to be a liar.
How's this? Hillary
I don't care if he
Hillary
supported
Clinton
the war.
was informed.
Yes.
She had access to all the information.
And she made a mistake.
And she voted for the Iraq War.
Just because, and people do this all the time. They say that because Donald Trump was a private citizen, that it excuses the fact that he tells lies. It doesn't. We are looking. It is a lie. He backed the war.
Jess, let's just be honest here, okay? There's a no-spin zone at 8 o'clock every night during the week.
Well, I'll
we
be
should
back.
call this the Saturday morning no-spin zone.
I'm not spinning.
But he didn't. He's told Howard Stern, yeah, I guess I would go to war. And then immediately thereafter, during the war and after, he said this was a bad idea. How is that a lie? Let me get Gina in here. I'm sorry. You can respond.
Gina will point out how it's a lie.
Well, then you can respond to Gina. Go ahead, Gina.
Well, I'll tell you, here's another example of where it seems like basic math is a challenge to those trying to write the narrative in the mainstream media. And that is this. The reality is that they asked Donald Trump 16 questions, asked Hillary 7 questions. if anything was uneven here, it was that Donald Trump was more interrogated than Hillary Clinton. The bottom line is Hillary doesn't want to talk about all of her lies, her scandal, her cover-up, her bleach bit, the hammers she took to her phones. The list goes on and on all day long. She isn't available to media, and this is why, and even when she is, Eric, as you pointed out, she'll hand-pick a small group.
No, the press conference, those journalists were not handpicked.
Access is on the line. And if you compare her to Donald Trump, who is available every day, I can barely turn on my television without him calling into some other show.
But it's access and it's transparency. Let me bring Mercedes. Mercedes.
And that's what this administration
Donald Trump is the opposite of transparency.
Hold on. Mercedes, can I just remind everyone, remember when Hillary Clinton said, yeah, press, you can come along for this ride, but you have to stay within this rope, and she literally roped off reporters? I mean, that's not transparency, and that's really not journalism. Mercy.
Well, and that's, I think, Clinton's biggest problem is a lack of transparency. But let me tell you, the media's job is to inform the American people, ask the tough questions. And I have to tell you, during that forum, one of those best questions that was asked was by that Navy veteran who said, guess what? If I have top secret clearance, and if I would have done half of what you would have done, I would have ended up in jail. And Hillary Clinton could not give a clarifying response to that man. And so I think that the media owes it to the American people to keep addressing, to keep revealing what is happening in each of the campaigns. I think for Hillary Clinton, there's a lot of these unanswered questions, and I think, I would like to see more of the American people being able to ask these questions directly to the
Kristen,
candidates.
we have 59 days or so left. Do we see the American journalism reemerge as journalists?
Well, I think what you are going to see is the Clinton campaign realizing they need to be a little bit more transparent, you know, playing really strong defense up until now. The polls have narrowed. She still has a lead, but it's not as big of a lead as she had 2 or 3 weeks ago. So she can't just sit back and run out the clock. Donald Trump, for all that people can criticize him, the one thing that he's done is he has been very available, very in the media, not holding back. And so, you know, you'd have instances where, say, a terrorist attack happens, and the Clinton campaign would be in their bunker working on a statement. Trump would have already done 3 interviews in the media.
Yeah,
now maybe, you know, and so it's just a very different strategy.
He only did 2 instead of the 3rd one.
Exactly.
We got to leave it right there. Coming up.